Most owners think their dog's bedtime routine is simple. Last bathroom break, maybe a treat, into the bed, lights off, done. But there is a specific piece missing from that sequence in most households. Something that has a measurable effect on how deeply your dog sleeps, how quickly their nervous system settles, and how they carry the residue of the day into the hours of rest that are supposed to reset them. It is not a product. It is not something you need to buy. It is a specific kind of interaction backed by research on canine physiology that most owners skip entirely without realizing what it costs their dog. The problem with how most bedtimes actually work for most dogs, the transition from the active part of the evening into sleep is abrupt. There is dinner, maybe a final walk, some background activity while the household winds down, and then, fairly suddenly, the lights go off and the dog is expected to shift from an activated state into a fully restful one. Humans do not transition this way, and neither do dogs. The nervous system does not move instantly from alert to at rest. It requires a de-escalation period, a bridge between the arousal of the day and the parasympathetic state that genuine restorative sleep depends on. Without that bridge, dogs frequently enter sleep still carrying elevated cortisol and unresolved arousal from the day. This does not necessarily prevent sleep entirely. Most dogs will still fall asleep, but it affects the quality of that sleep. Research on sleep architecture in dogs has found that dogs who transition into rest from a still activated state show more fragmented sleep cycles and spend measurably less time in the deep, restorative stages associated with genuine physiological recovery. The missing piece is not more exercise, and it is not an earlier bedtime. It is a deliberate calming transition, and specifically one built around physical touch. What the research actually shows. The research on touch and canine physiology that we have referenced throughout this series becomes directly relevant here. Slow, sustained physical contact, not play, not activating touch, but calm, low-intensity stroking, produces measurable reductions in cortisol and heart rate in dogs. A study on oxytocin and cortisol levels in dogs and their owners found that the type of touch mattered significantly for the physiological outcome. Stroking-type contact, delivered slowly and calmly, correlated with lower cortisol. Activating touch, the kind associated with play and excitement, correlated with higher cortisol, even when the interaction itself was positive and enjoyable for the dog. This means the timing and type of touch your dog receives in the final minutes before sleep is not incidental. A calm, several-minute period of slow physical contact immediately before your dog settles for the night functions as a direct physiological downregulator, actively shifting them from an aroused state into the parasympathetic state that deep, restorative sleep depends on. Most owners provide plenty of touch throughout the day. What is missing, specifically, is touch positioned deliberately at the transition point into sleep. Touch used as a tool rather than simply as affection. Why this matters more than most owners realize? The quality of a dog's sleep is not a minor wellness detail. It has downstream effects on nearly everything else covered throughout this series. Emotional regulation, stress resilience, behavioral stability, even the immune and physical health outcomes tied to chronic stress. Dogs that do not reach deep sleep consistently show elevated baseline cortisol during waking hours as well. The nervous system that does not get to fully rest at night carries some of that unresolved activation into the next day, compounding over time rather than resetting. This is part of why dogs going through a difficult period, grief, a household change, an anxious stretch often show worsening behavior in a downward spiral that can be hard to interrupt. The stress disrupts sleep. The disrupted sleep prevents full physiological recovery. The lack of recovery leaves the dog more reactive and less resilient the next day, which produces more stress, which further disrupts sleep. The cycle feeds itself. A deliberate calming transition before sleep is one of the most direct tools available to interrupt that cycle before it starts, or to help break it once it has already taken hold. What this actually looks like in practice. The mechanics of this are simple, but the value comes from consistency and intentionality rather than complexity. In the final 10 to 15 minutes before your dog settles for the night, spend a few minutes engaged in slow, deliberate physical contact, not a quick pat, not the same energy you might bring to a greeting or a play session, slow strokes along the back in the direction of the fur, a still hand resting on the chest, gentle, unhurried contact at the base of the ears, where many dogs carry tension without anyone noticing. The pace matters as much as the location. This should feel almost meditative. Slower than your normal touch, delivered with your own energy also winding down rather than staying at daytime intensity. Dogs pick up on the emotional and physiological state behind the touch, not just the touch itself, and a person delivering slow contact while mentally elsewhere or physically tense will not produce the same calming effect as a person who is genuinely settling alongside their dog. This is also an opportunity to apply what we covered in the earlier video on calming vocal tone. A low, slow, quiet voice paired with the touch reinforces the de-escalation rather than working against it. Save any bright, high-energy talking for earlier in the evening. This window is specifically for winding down together. The environmental piece that often gets missed, alongside. This touches the centerpiece, but it works best paired with attention to the broader sensory environment your dog is transitioning into. We have covered in previous videos how dogs respond physiologically to sound. Calm human voices and certain types of music measurably lowering heart rate and cortisol compared to silence or unpredictable ambient noise. The same principle applies at bedtime. A consistent, quiet sensory environment in the minutes before sleep supports the calming effect of the touch rather than undercutting it. A television left on with unpredictable volume and rapid scene changes. A household still moving through high-energy activity nearby, or bright light that has not been dimmed all work against the transition you are trying to create. Consistency in the environment matters as much as calmness. A dog whose pre-sleep environment is reliably similar night after night, same dim lighting, same quiet, same general sequence of events, builds a stronger anticipatory calming response over time than a dog whose bedtime environment varies unpredictably. The environment itself becomes part of the cue that signals safety and rest is coming. Why this is especially important for anxious or stressed dogs. While every dog benefits from this kind of intentional pre-sleep transition, it matters most for dogs already carrying elevated background stress. Dogs recovering from a difficult day, dogs with general anxiety, senior dogs experiencing more discomfort than they can clearly communicate, or dogs going through a significant household change. For these dogs, the gap between an activated nervous system and genuine rest is wider, and the natural, unassisted transition into sleep is less likely to happen smoothly on its own. A deliberate calming routine functions almost like a bridge specifically built for dogs, whose nervous system needs more help crossing from arousal into rest than a naturally calm dog would. This is also one of the more accessible tools available to owners dealing with a dog going through something difficult. It requires no training, no equipment, and no veterinary intervention. Simply a few minutes of intentional, well-timed physical presence at the specific point in the day when it will do the most physiological good. What changes when you start doing this consistently? Owners who introduce this kind of deliberate pre-sleep routine consistently often notice changes that extend beyond the sleep itself. Dogs tend to settle into position for sleep more quickly, rather than circling or resettling repeatedly. Nighttime waking or restlessness frequently decreases, and the waking behavior the next morning often shifts too. A dog whose sleep quality has improved tends to wake with more of the full body stretch and clear-eyed, unhurried orientation we covered in the sleeping position video, rather than the more abrupt, guarded waking associated with fragmented rest. None of this requires a dramatic overhaul of your evening. It requires 10 minutes, positioned deliberately at the transition point most households currently skip entirely, delivered with the specific quality of touch and calm that the research consistently points toward. Your dog cannot ask you for this directly. They cannot tell you that the 10 minutes before sleep matters more than almost anything else you do for them all day, but their nervous system has been asking quietly every single night. 10 minutes, slow hands, a quiet voice. That is the whole difference between a dog who falls asleep and a dog who actually rests. Try it tonight and watch what happens to how quickly they settle. Drop a comment. I read every single one. Subscribe. New video every week. See you next time.